Hey guys, Jake here, and welcome back to the Minecast. Whoop whoop. I don't know what we're gonna do today. I was trying to think of what we were gonna do, if we were gonna build, if we were gonna mine, if we were gonna, do some. I don't know what we're gonna do. This dude showed up though. He doesn't have any good trades though, and even if he did, I don't have emeralds, so it doesn't really matter. There is a cave, at least a cave opening here, so I think we're gonna start with that. My life's been kind of mundane recently, so there's not much for me to talk about, like, of my real life. And I don't know what else I really want to talk about. Oh, how about how it was a complete waste of time because there's nothing in this cave. We're gonna, like we decided last episode, this lake is going to be the place of our beautiful home. We're going to build out onto the lake, and we're going to build a nice, beautiful home on the middle of the lake with some, pathways coming from the house to the shore. So I guess we need to decide, since this is makeshift starter home, maybe this side could be where we have a farm that comes out, like from our house. So we'll have a pathway leading here to a farm. This can be like a little shed for our farming once we get there. And maybe that side can be like adventure. So maybe this side seems like a good side to be our mine. Ooh, and there's already a little, there's already a cave here. Now, whether we have an actual mine that we can use for mining, like here, I doubt it. This is probably just like ooh, it might actually be a good cave. This might be the start of where we're gonna, like, our mining operation. I don't think I brought any wood with me, did I? No, I didn't bring any wood with me, so I'm gonna grab some of this. I'm gonna grab that oak tree. Because we're gonna want some wood at some point while we're mining. All right, well, let's start the mining. There's a creeper. As long as I don't take damage or don't die, I don't really care about creepers blowing up. Ooh, very creepy mine, it looks like. Like a pretty good cave. Ooh, you know what? We don't have a bucket. We have the iron at our house to make a bucket, but I did not make a bucket. Probably should have made a bucket. Oh, you know what? That is something that I can talk about, that I kind of wanted to touch on. And that's something that I'm kind of done with. There was a time where I really, like, stayed on top of things and, like, saw what everyone was talking about. And what I'm talking about is cancel culture in general. If you don't know, very large YouTuber, 20 million subscribers, OG to YouTube, Jenna Marbles, just the other day announced that she would be leaving YouTube because of some inappropriate videos that she made. And I'm not excusing the videos. The videos were inappropriate, and she owned up to that, and that's why she's leaving. But it wasn't just like I'm leaving YouTube for a little while. It was I'm leaving this channel for a little while, or possibly forever. She is, and I don't think she was like canceled off of YouTube. Like, I don't think, unlike a lot of people, I don't think people were actually asking her to leave. I think she decided to leave because there were some people calling her out for it. You know what I mean? But this kind of, I used to be a person who would, like, you know, watch the drama videos, or, you know, do that kind of stuff. But one, I would never actively go after anyone, because from the start I never thought cancel culture was really good. I think if someone has committed a crime, of course they should be held accountable for said crime. But sometimes, basically, what cancel culture is definitely turned into is something very, very unwell, very toxic. And the people who push cancel culture will never say that what they're doing is toxic. They'll say the people that are being canceled are toxic. And that might be true to a certain extent. However, it doesn't take away the fact that how cancel culture is currently set up, basically it makes it impossible for people to learn from their mistakes. Because if you try to learn from your mistake, it's too late. And I think it's a very, very dangerous trap to fall into, because we are all human, and human beings make mistakes. And I feel like putting people at a making it so that some people are not allowed to make mistakes eventually will escalate to where no one's allowed to make a mistake. And if you think I'm wrong, and you think that that's, you know, over dramatic or whatever, really, you don't have to look that far into cancel culture to see that. Just the other day, I think, was it the Wall Street Journal? Was it Washington Post? Some, you know, some large newspaper published a story about a woman who wore blackface to a Halloween party. And according to the story, she felt awful about it. There was like a whole thing, but she was just a normal person who made a very, very, very big mistake. But she didn't work for, it was I think it was Washington Post, and it was a Washington Post Halloween party, or it was a Halloween party like put on by someone who works at the Washington Post. So because they were basically trying to save face, basically that was the only reason that they even basically did the story, was to save face. That woman who, you know, who made a mistake years ago. I just spawned outside my house. I don't know how that happened. But it had been a pretty long time since this woman did this, and apparently she went to therapy because of it, because she felt so bad about what she'd done. Like, it was like a big thing for her in her life, and reconciling how she could do something so awful, that kind of thing. And they brought it up because it might have looked bad on them if someone else reported on it first. That woman lost her job because of it. And, I mean, obviously, I don't know the woman. I don't know if the woman had changed, but based on what I had heard, she was a very different person, and had really tried to figure out what made her do what she did after she did it. And I think it's dangerous when just your normal average person who doesn't have people in high places, who isn't someone in a high place, when that normal human being can be canceled by by a giant newspaper. Like, it wasn't even like it wasn't even like someone from her work found out that she did this awful thing in the past and told the boss, and then HR looked into it, and then, you know, or she was discriminating against someone at her job, and then, you know, whatever. It was a party that she went to years ago, and obviously I am not one to, like, I don't know if she seemed, basically on the story that I read, which was basically a story that was talking about why the Washington Post had reported on this, because it didn't seem to be newsworthy because it was so many years ago. It was a normal average person. It wasn't someone who, I don't think we should hold anyone to like an extreme standard of perfection. Obviously blackface is forever and will always be disgusting, awful, terrible. But if you make a habit of doing it, sure, yeah. But also, I think the problem is almost kind of like a statute of limitation. You know what I mean? Where if you commit a crime, say in your teens, and people don't find out about it, and you get away with whatever crime you committed, and then someone finds out that you committed this crime later, they can't, they might, depending on the crime, they might not be able to press charges on you because it's been so long. And that's kind of assuming that the person has almost certainly learned, or any damages that could have been done by it have subsided or have ended or are no longer in effect. Now, in some cases, I think statute of limitation is stupid and bad and awful and lets terrible people get away with doing terrible things. But at certain times, you can be... Basically, we're creating a world where you can't be young and stupid. We're creating a world where everyone has to be mature and perfect from the day they were born. And no matter what their family was like, no matter... Nothing can save you from a mistake, an awful mistake that you made. And sometimes when you're trying to talk about this, you have to be so careful. And I hope I'm doing a good job. I truly do. Because I understand, well, technically I don't fully understand because of who I am, because of the color of my skin. I'm a white guy. I haven't had to deal with systemic racism. That hasn't been a reality in my life, other than possibly, definitely witnessing it at some point, maybe without even realizing it. But it's very difficult because you don't want to seem ignorant or like you're spreading falsities, or you're spreading hate, and you're spreading like whatever. And I think this is what brings me to like the YouTuber questions with this type of stuff. And that is, at what level should we have YouTubers at in our, like, what they're allowed to do, what they're allowed to get away with, what, you know. And I think, again, timing is so important. If, like, and I think Jenna Marbles is a perfect example of this. Jenna Marbles had a video where she impersonated Nicki Minaj, and in doing so, she did darken her skin. Which obviously is bad. However, that was also in 2011, nearly a decade ago. And if you have watched any of her videos in the last decade, well, in like at least the last like probably 6 years, I would say, maybe even, that might have even been like the last video she did anything that was like as problematic as that. I don't know the whole history of Jenna Marbles, but I feel like it, and there might be something else. I think this is something we need to understand as well, is we don't fully know the full story of why Jenna Marbles left YouTube. We know that she was kind of giving the reason of these problematic videos and not wanting to put hate into the world and wanting everything that she puts into the world to be good and, you know, not hurt anyone. But we also don't know if there was possibly something else, like if she just wasn't enjoying making YouTube videos anymore. We don't know if something else had also driven her to choose to leave YouTube. So I don't want to pretend like I know the whole story, because I don't know her story. I don't know exactly why she has decided to do what she's decided to do. But I think it's still dangerous when we take these people who are just plain normal human beings. And I think that's another thing. People seem to have forgotten why people fell in love with YouTube in the first place. It wasn't because it was a bunch of celebrities. It was almost exactly the opposite of that. People fell in love with YouTube because it was a bunch of normal people not having to deal with the rules of a producer or the rules of a network or anything like that, making the content they liked, making what they wanted to make, and enjoying it and truly having passion for what they were creating. That's what people fell in love with YouTube. And I think people have forgotten that, and it's been replaced with these people are influencers. I think that word has become so much more terrifying since cancel culture has gotten as humongous as it has. Because when someone is an influencer, it strips away all power for that person to make a mistake at some point. Because that person is an influencer. They have an audience that they influence. So if they're influencing people, then they shouldn't be doing anything bad. But there are still humans who can do something bad on accident. You know, make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And I don't think some people allow enough time or try to see if someone has changed. I think that's the other dangerous part of the whole cancel culture thing is you have YouTubers who have been canceled because of something that they've done in their past. And even if they have never done anything like that in literally a decade, they've still just been canceled. But we should be praising the people who have done terrible things and changed. I think, because change is by far the hardest thing for a human to do. Humans do not like change. It's why we have problems when things change in our real lives. It's why we struggle when something just changes like that. When something changes in your life, it is difficult. And it is difficult because you as a human being do not like change. Change is not an easy thing. It's not something that comes simple and innate. So when someone does something bad and then changes their entire way of life to be better because they recognize the bad thing that they did, that person should be praised for the change, not for the thing they did wrong. They should still have to remember that they did something wrong at some point, but they shouldn't have to say they've changed every day of their life after they've changed. And I think that's where a lot of people have gone wrong with holding YouTubers accountable, is no matter how many times they apologize, no matter how many times some YouTubers actually have changed and proven that they have changed and they're not the same person they were when they did something, it doesn't matter because they've done it. So they're always going to get people commenting on their videos, always in their Twitch streams or in whatever, asking or like asking why do people, or just tweeting at them being like, why does anyone watch you? You did this awful thing at one point, or why does, and all this stuff. And no matter how many times that person says, I'm sorry and I've changed, you can see that I've changed, I'm not the same person, they're still treated as if they are that same person. There's a quote about the Buddha, which basically goes, there was a man who tricked the Buddha, or did something bad to the Buddha, basically. Or to Buddha. I don't know if it's the Buddha or Buddha. I don't know how I'm not Buddhist. I don't know the proper way of referring to Buddha. But oh man, my shield broke. When did my shield break? Was it that? Was it the it was probably the creeper. But basically someone did something bad to the Buddha, tricked the Buddha, did something, whatever. And years later, the person felt bad for what they did and went back to apologize to Buddha for doing the awful thing. The Buddha did not accept his apology because the man he saw before him was not the same man who had done the deed to him. So I don't think enough people live by that kind of ideology. We have too many people that kind of say, you've done one thing wrong in your entire life. At some point, it will always be with you. It is always that thing you did wrong, and people will always bring it up, always and forever. You can never escape it. And that's not how we should be treating people, because then you are incentivizing them not to change. I think that's what's so disturbing, basically, is you do incentivize people not to change if you don't recognize and praise them when they do change. If you continue to hold the thing against them even after they've changed for the better, why would that person ever change if they know that their change means nothing? It doesn't do anything. You still treat them like they haven't changed. Why would you change? You would just keep going on being awful, because no matter what you do, that's how everyone already sees you and will always see you, because of that one bad thing you did. And that's the problem with cancel culture in general, is you're not actually allowing anyone to change. You're not allowing anyone to try to change and become the better person that you say you want them to be. There are plenty of drama channels and people who say that they don't want people to be canceled, and they just want people to take accountability for their actions or whatever they say. Those types of channels, almost always, when that person does take accountability, when that person does apologize, their answer is always that they didn't mean the apology, that they're lying, that they're manipulating their audience, that they haven't changed at all. And while they might not be wrong, but one of the reasons why they might not be wrong when saying that is because every time they've tried to apologize, you've said that the apology wasn't real and didn't matter, even though you were the ones asking for the apology. And I think that's the problem with the drama channels, is the amount of hypocrisy that oozes from them, because they call anyone who's ever done anything wrong a manipulator, trying to manipulate their audience, and then they say everything would be okay if that person just, apologized for their actions and took accountability. They do exactly that. They take accountability. They try to become a better person. And then the drama channel turns back around, makes another video saying that their apology was fake and was not real and was the worst excuse for an apology they've ever seen, or some kind of stupid thing that they say. It's unhealthy. And I think it's unhealthy for the people making the drama videos to constantly be berating and trying to take people down. But it's unhealthy just in a societal sense to not allow a person to change. And I think that's another thing, is these drama channels expect and want people to change literally overnight. That's not gonna happen. Like, when was the last time you've ever in your entire life seen someone do something wrong, and then unless there were extreme, and that's the thing, is that they make every small problem such an extreme thing that this actually sometimes does happen, but it's normally not genuine. I mean, I think Shane Dawson's recent apology video, where he was just saying that he was taking accountability for everything he's done in his past, whatever, is an example of this, because he talks about exactly what I'm thinking is the case with a lot of apology videos, is that they don't mean it, and that these drama channels are right that they don't mean it, and it's because they expect an immediate change and an immediate apology. You can't have either one of those. The person has to have time to think about their actions, to fully digest what it is that they did. To expect someone to go from one day doing an awful thing, and then the next day making a video apologizing for that awful thing and mean it 100% is very unlikely, depending on the person and depending on what they did wrong. If someone accidentally put something in their video that they weren't supposed to, and it was just a legitimate accident, do you want them to hate themselves and to, you know, apologize profusely for doing something that was an accident? Or do you want that person to just say, sorry, I took down the video? You know, like, because for me, that would probably be enough. Just, I took down the video. Because, and I understand, I'm never going to do it again. I'm never going to put that thing that I'm not supposed to put in the video in another video. It was an accident. It was a editing mistake. It was something, you know, whatever. But they don't want to allow that person any kind of time to learn from their mistakes. They want them to, because here's the thing. We've all made so many mistakes in our lives. And if you say you've never made a mistake, you're lying to yourself and to the universe. But one thing that is almost certainly true is that you have made mistakes, and every time you have made a mistake, unless it was something huge and a disastrous mistake, you have to fully understand and know what was wrong before, and to really think about it. You can't just go from one day doing something that is wrong and the next day apologizing and meaning it 100%, unless, again, it was something awful that you really either didn't mean, or it was really... Obviously, there are exceptions for everything that I'm saying, and that's basically what I'm trying to say. And right now, like with this, is I'm trying to say that there are exceptions. But for the most part, when you apologize for something, it normally isn't the day after you've done it, unless it was for something either really tiny and stupid. And it was just a simple sorry. It wasn't like I'm a terrible human being. Oh my gosh, I deserve all the hate that's been coming to me recently. I understand where all of you guys are coming from. You're all right. I should be canceled. I should leave. I need to take time for myself. Like, for something stupid, that shouldn't have to be the response. And I think it's just, drama channels to me just aren't really anything to, I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. To me, drama channels aren't really holding anyone accountable, because they have created a culture of one mistake means you're irredeemable. They've created a culture where one hasty apology means that you're manipulating your audience, and that you've always been manipulating your audience. Or one editing error means that you're an awful human being who shouldn't be allowed to make YouTube videos, or shouldn't have people watching them. They don't seem to really care about the people, or the people that were hurt. I'm gonna bring up one YouTuber that has been very vocal on this same sort of topic and has said some of the same things that I've said, but has also herself been in the like forefront of a lot of drama, and that is the YouTuber Gabby Hanna. Now, I don't have strong feelings for Gabby one way or another. I don't really care all that much, to be honest. Like, she seems like just a normal human, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't I think people expect everyone on YouTube to either be an awful human being or the perfect human being, and no one can just be like a person. But one thing with Gabby, which is what I wanted to bring up, was that she is kind of like, even if I know she's been called a manipulator a lot. I know that she's been called like just a terrible human being who misleads her fans, or like all this kind of stuff. She's been called that kind of stuff a lot. And I feel like even if there were times where she did those things, or when she manipulated an audience to get something, or to do something, or to whatever. One, I don't think it's every time she turns on a camera. I think that's the other thing, is people like think that all of these YouTubers only have one mode. As soon as you call them a manipulator, that is what they are. They've never made a video because they cared about it. They've never made something because they're passionate about it. They've never made anything because they wanted to do it. They've made everything and do everything because they want your money. That's kind of what it seems that a lot of drama channels seem to think about anyone that they've decided to deem a manipulator. And one thing about being called a manipulator on YouTube is it immediately ruins your entire reputation in every way. And I think Gabby's a very clear example of this, because anytime Gabby gets into drama, the drama channels make a video on it, and which can make sense. She's a large YouTuber, and they make videos on everyone when they get into drama, so she's not special in that way, you know. But every time that she does get into drama of some kind, or makes a mistake, or whatever, all the drama channels talk about it. And then all the drama channels tell her to apologize, or to take accountability, or to whatever. And then she does. And then all of the drama channels make a video that same day that she takes accountability for her actions, saying that this video of her taking accountability for her actions is fake, and she's manipulating her audience, and it's not real. And I think there are some videos where you can clearly see when a person is not actually sorry, and doesn't actually care, and isn't really apologizing. They're doing it to save face. But there are also definitely videos where you can see that people are legitimately apologizing and legitimately feel bad. And I think even if Gabby doesn't fit into this, again, I don't know all that much. I don't keep up with this kind of stuff anymore. But any YouTuber that is deemed a manipulator, if they then try to take accountability, that accountability is just them manipulating their audience. So what do you want? Do you want them to forever be a manipulator? Do you want them to ever take accountability for everything? Or do you want them to just never respond to anything and stay the same human being that you seem to dislike? Because those are really the options that you're giving that person at that point. If when they don't respond, you call them an awful human being, and then when they do respond, you call them a manipulator, what are they supposed to do? anything? Is there anything that would make you say okay? And I think the answer is no, with a lot of these drama YouTube channels. I think the only way that some of these drama channels would allow a person to come back from them deeming them a manipulator is if something awful happened to them. And it was highly publicized with a humongous amount of evidence and truth in it. And it was just like this awful, terrible, awful thing. That is the only time they would ever allow the people they've deemed manipulative to ever come back from being manipulative. Is if there was irrefutable evidence that something awful happened to them. Because that's all they care about, is when something awful happens. They don't want to know about the good things. They don't want to see you do the amazing stuff. And it's the same thing with normal news. Like, I'm talking about the drama channels now, but this is exactly how mainstream media treats mistakes from anyone as well. And I think that's why it's not just online culture. That's not, it's cancel culture. And it's stemmed throughout the internet, and it's in real life. It's at people's workplace. It is everywhere. And personally, I don't feel that anyone should be canceled. I think if someone has done something awful, they should be held accountable. Preferably, if it's something extremely awful, in a court of law. Or just, I don't know, maybe stop watching them. I feel like that's really my other problem, is cancel culture also doesn't allow people to... It tries to make people not agree with what they want to agree with. You know what I mean? If someone wants to stick by a YouTuber that they like, even when they've done something bad, you can make that decision. And I feel like, honestly, the election, the presidential election, is going to get a little political for a second. The current political climate in the current presidential race, Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, is honestly very similar. Neither man is perfect by any means. Both have questionable pasts, both on policy and on allegations against them of sexual misconduct or other types of bad things. But if people want to make the decision to vote for somebody, even if they do not agree with something that they've done in their past, and they basically say, okay, yeah, this was bad, but I still want to vote for them because I think they do well in this position. What cancel culture tries to do is make it where that's not possible. People can't make a decision for themselves. It is the mob mentality, truly. You have to go with what the mob is telling you. You have to go with what everyone else is doing. You have to jump on the bandwagon, or otherwise you're just as bad as that person. And I don't think that's true in a lot of cases. If a YouTuber does a brand deal and someone doesn't like the brand, or the brand has a weird past, or whatever it may be, I don't care about that at all. Like, legitimately. Because even if the brand did something bad, I'm not gonna hold what the brand did against the YouTuber. And I know people are like, but they're associating themselves with them, they're talking about their products, their whatever. I think this is a better analogy if, like, someone who worked for that company did something bad, and not the company itself. So, like, if the CEO was arrested for something bad, you know, and then people got angry at a YouTuber for working with that company, like, that doesn't make much sense to me. And also, if it does, if you disagree and you think that if working with a brand who has a bad boss or has a whatever, if you think that is awful and the YouTuber shouldn't have done that and it's bad, whatever, voice that to them politely. I think that's another thing. People need to learn how to add some nuance to what they're saying and just talk kindly, even if you dislike someone. Here's the thing, because I can I can be just as rude as every single one of these drama channels and every single one of the people trying to just cancel people for whatever, while saying that it's constructive criticism, which I don't think people know the definition of. Constructive criticism, by definition, cannot be belittling or like trying to tear down the person. It has to be constructive. It's criticizing. It's saying that what they are doing isn't the way that it should be in some way, because it's criticizing. However, if you want it to be constructive, it can't be belittling or aggressive or trying to, like, it just can't be rude. Like, I don't if, like, here's a prime example. If someone commented on this video saying that the audio levels were bad and that I should think about testing out the audio before I start recording, and they said just exactly that. They said, hey, the audio balancing wasn't very good in this video, the game was really quiet, or you were really quiet, or whatever it may be. If someone said that on my video, I'd be like, oh yeah, cool, thanks, I'll take that into consideration. I'll try my best to get the audio levels better for the next video. But if someone goes in the comments and says, this video was awful, this is the worst video I've ever seen in my entire life, did you hear the audio mixing? It was awful. Did you hear that? The game was so quiet and I could barely hear him on top of the quiet audio of the game. Are you kidding me? Like, if someone said that in my comments, I would be like, okay, maybe I should fix it, but also I now don't want to, in spite of you, because you were rude. And I think that's where people don't understand what constructive criticism is. If you're actively making someone not like your criticism, it's not constructive. Someone has to agree with your criticism based on the way you have presented it for them to want to fix it in the way you are saying it needs to be fixed. But if you walk up to someone, say you don't like someone's clothes, you don't like the shoes they picked with their outfit, and you say to them, hey, cute outfit, but do you have some black shoes instead? I think that might look a little better. That's fine. That's a sentence. That's some constructive criticism. And they might be a little offended because they thought maybe they thought it looked nice. But also, at the end of the day, it's also just an outfit. So they'd probably just be like, or maybe they even tried it. Maybe they were like, you know, I tried it with black shoes, and I didn't think it looked as good. And then that's respecting their criticism while also just having their own opinion. But then if you walk up to someone and say, your outfit's disgusting, wear some black shoes next time. Like, if that's what you say to someone, they're not gonna listen to you. They're not going to take that criticism. And I think it's insane that these people think that people are going to take criticism, I'm putting quotes in the air right now, when you're actively attacking them while criticizing them. People do not like hostility. That's why it's called hostility. It's not something people want. It's not something people look for. And it's not something that people listen to. It's one of the reasons why wars that start out with hostility, because they chose a hostile way of starting, so any kind of peaceful resolution, at least for a while, seems impossible to the person who was attacked by that hostility. What you have to do is always start with kindness, and if they refuse to listen to kindness, maybe you push a little harder. But you still don't attack them. This reminds me of one of my favorite monologues from Doctor Who, especially one of my favorite monologues from when Peter Capaldi was the Doctor, and it's from it's from the episode called the Zygon Inversion, and basically the monologue is all about war. And it's about how every war is exactly the same. It is it's someone who thinks they're right attacking someone who also thinks that they're right, and everyone starts fighting, and people die, it's awful, everything's terrible, until everyone does exactly what they were always going to have to do from the very beginning: sit down and talk. And I think it's my favorite part of that speech, because it is so true. If people didn't fight and just started with talking, there wouldn't be a need for war. Because if you just talk and come up with a solution, or talk and just anything like that, it's so good. I can't remember, it's a really long monologue. I would say it all, but I don't know it all, and it's very, very long. But I think I can probably remember enough of it. It starts with him talking to an alien who's body snatched his companions. It was the doctor speaking. And he's talking to an alien that has basically body snatched his companion. And he looks at them and he says that you just want cruelty to beget cruelty. You're not any better than the people who are cruel to you. You're just a bunch of new cruel people who will be cruel to other people, who will then be cruel back to you. And that's kind of how he starts it. And then he asks what this alien wants to do with their perfect revolution. And what are they going to do when someone like that alien, the troublemaker, comes around and tries to ruin the revolution that they just started. And the alien says that they'll win. And then he says, will you? Maybe you will. But no one wins for long. And then they're like staring at these two boxes. And basically it's a 50-50 chance. They both have a 50-50 chance of pushing the right button. There's the humans on one side and there's the aliens on the other side. And basically, he's trying to get the alien to understand and to back down and to call the revolution off, basically. And the alien decides that no, they have a 50-50 chance. And then the human says the same thing, like, yeah, we also have a 50-50 chance, and looks at the buttons. And then he acts like it's a game, and he says, like, ladies and gentlemen, have your hands ready to hit the buzzers, and like, that kind of thing. And then the human screams it's not a game. And then they ask why he set this up, because he set up the buttons and the 50-50 chance thing. And then he says, because it's not a game. This is a scale model of war. Every war ever fought right there in front of you. No matter how good you feel when you fire that first shot, you don't know who's going to die. You don't know how many lives will be lost, how many hearts shattered, how many women and children will burn. And then that part of the monologue ends with him saying, and it always, how many hearts shattered? I don't remember how, but then at the end of that part of the monologue, it goes, until everyone does exactly what they're always going to have to do from the very beginning: sit down and talk, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're making them sit down and talk at this 50-50 chance of either winning or losing the war. Now, it turns out that the boxes with the buttons are empty and don't actually do anything, and are just there to prove the point, basically. But it's so good. And it's the same thing with cancel culture. And just with drama channels and with holding people accountable, which I'm putting in quotes, when you say that that's your purpose, and that's what you're doing, and that's why you're doing what you're doing, that's great. But if you're just doing that by attacking them, and not sitting down and talking and trying to allow them and give them the time to be a better person, they will never be that better person that you claim to want them to be. Because you're just more cruel people being cruel to some other people that will then be cruel back to you. That is exactly what drama channels are, and what drama on YouTube is. It is a bunch of cruel people saying that these people that were cruel to them or cruel to others are worse than them because they're more cruel, and then those cruel people are then cruel to the drama channels because the drama channels were cruel to them. It's a cycle, and it will never end until someone sits down and talks. I'm gonna leave this episode here. This got very real very, very fast. It started with me literally not knowing what to talk about, and then it turned into drama channels, cancel culture, politics, you name it. We talked about it today. I think that was a great conversation. Also, anytime I get to quote Doctor Who, I'm down. So, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, leave a comment, subscribe, like the I was gonna say like the channel. I mean, please do like the channel, but like the video, share it with someone that you think either needs to hear this or would like to hear this or whatever it may be. And honestly, I just hope you're having a good day. I've had a bunch of bad days recently. Now, we're basically, I'm basically trying to fix a problem right now. That's what the bad thing has been a problem, trying to fix the problem, and we're at the point of fixing the problem where the fixing is in someone else's court, basically. Someone else now gets to decide whether it's fixed or not. So, we're waiting on their decision before. So, I either have a good day coming soon or another bad day. So, again, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Have a great day. Just be the best you can be the best human you can be, and love every human on this planet as much as you can. That doesn't mean you have to love everyone equally. Doesn't mean you have to love someone who's done awful things. But just try to love those who are deserving of love. Goodbye.